dedicated to each and every one of you who appreciate a great glass of wine. You know what I mean?
It's Monday. Let's raise a glass to the beginning of another week. It's time to unscrew, uncork, or saber a bottle. And let's begin exploring the wine glass. Before we dive into today's episode, let me set the scene. Close your eyes. Imagine misty green hills rolling into rugged cliffs, tiny terraces clinging to mountain slopes, and ancient grapes whispering stories you won't hear anywhere else. Today, we're heading to Asturias, a corner of Spain where cider reigns, wine whispers, and folklore practically dips from the rain-soaked slate. So pour yourself some fresh, maybe even a tart sidra if you're feeling adventurous, and let's explore why this quiet, soulful region deserves a big spot on your wine map. Please take a moment of your time to subscribe, rate, and review Exploring the Wine Glass. It's completely free and is a great way to let other wine lovers know about the podcast. Be sure to head over to the website Exploring the Wine Glass to read my award-winning blog and to see what else I've been up to. And most of all, please tell your friends about the podcast. Slainte.
No, no, no. No, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Never let you.
Hey everybody, I'm Lori Budd, a UC Davis winemaking program, Spanish wine scholar, sommelier service, champagne and Côte d'Aron specialist, and a WSET Level 2 graduate. You can find Exploring the Wine Glass on all the socials, as well as your favorite podcast catchers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to swipe, subscribe, rate, and review. Stay in the know about all things wine by visiting my website, exploringthewineglass.com. I promise I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass.
You are special. You're very, very special. You are so special. You're even in the Bible.
Hey there, wine lovers, and welcome back to Exploring the Wine Glass, where I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass. I truly believe we can fall in love with wine and its regions without needing to memorize every soil type, although you know me, I still geek out over soil, or pronounce every wine term perfectly. It's meant to be fun. Today, we're heading to a corner of Spain that doesn't quite get the spotlight it deserves, Asturias. Sure, it's famous for its lush green hills, dramatic sea cliffs, and, spoiler alert, some of the best cider you'll ever taste. But hidden among apple orchards, stone villages, and coastal mist is a tiny, fascinating world of wine that's just starting to make itself heard. Quietly but confidently, like the gentle pop of a cork in a quiet room. And we all love that sound. So pour yourself a glass, or maybe just for today, explore a glass of cider and get comfy, because Asturias might be small in wine, but it's got a story worth telling. To ground us on the map, where we're located, remember last episode we explored Galicia on the Spain's northwestern edge. Today, we're just sliding east along that green wild coastline, and Asturias hugs the north coast of Spain, bordered by Galicia to the west and Cantabria to the east. To the north is the Cantabrian Sea, churns, crashes its rugged cliffs, while the imposing Picos de Europa mountains rise up to the south. Asturias is still considered what the Spaniards call España Verde, or Green Spain. Believe me, from pictures, because I have not gotten there, lives up to its name. Close your eyes and imagine rolling pastures so vivid they look photoshopped, wildflowers dancing in the breeze, sleepy stone villages where it feels like time itself has slowed down. And if you didn't know better, you might just think you landed somewhere in Ireland instead of Spain. And fun fact, you'll even hear bagpipes, because the gaita asturiana is a type of traditional bagpipe native to Asturias. Imagine sipping local cider in a stone courtyard while someone plays the gaita. You're practically halfway to that travel brochure. One day, you'll be there. Now, how do we get to all that green? Well, the not-so-secret ingredient, rain. Asturias has an Atlantic or that oceanic climate, which means mild summers, cool winters, and yes, plenty of rain. In fact, the region averages over 1,000 millimeters. That's about 40 inches of rainfall a year. For perspective, however, Galicia ranges from about 800 to a whopping 2,000 millimeters, so up to 78 inches. But if you're in the United States, the city that holds the highest rainfall title is, drumroll, Hilo, Hawaii. It receives, on average, over 126 inches of rain annually. So Asturias is damp, but in the most beautiful, life-giving way. Not too much out of control. The mountains play their part too, trapping most Atlantic winds. Coastal areas stay humid and misty, while the southern slopes in the rain shadow feel slightly more continental. So remember that Foehn effect, that rain shadow. This effect never really is hot or dry, and in this region remains just that continental. The cool, wet climate is perfect, not just for apples, but for growing high acid grape varieties that stay fresh and lively. And that brings us to what most people associate with Asturias, cider. Asturias produces roughly 80% of Spain's cider. And here it's more than just a drink, it's practically a way of life. The local style, sidra natural, is tart, gently funky, and still not sparkling. It's traditionally poured from high above the glass in a move called the esquiando. Part technique, part performance art. There will be a link to a video of how cider should be poured in Asturias in the show notes. The splash aerates the cider, wakes up its flavors, and yes, looks pretty damn cool in a local sidra. It looks so cool that there are actually competitions for the best pourers. But while cider steals the show, there's a quiet wine story too. Wine production centers mainly in the southwest of Asturias, around the town of Cangas del Narcea. Here, vines cling to vertigo-inducing slopes, massive steep slopes, some with angles of 40 to 50 degrees. So just for comparison, parts of the north face of Everest Hornbein Collier average about 45 to 60 degrees. And we all know how dangerous it is to climb Mount Everest. So now imagine tending vines on those kinds of slopes. It is what is called heroic viticulture, and it is heroic for a reason. Farming that's backbreaking, impossible to mechanize, but deeply tied to the tradition of the place. Asturias wine history is long but rocky. Benedictine monks were planting vines here as early as the 9th century. But as in many places, phylloxera hit in the late 19th century, decimated vineyards. Then came mining booms, industrial shifts, rural depopulation, shrinking vintages, and then almost nothing. Yet, luckily, in the late 20th century, local winemakers began reviving these ancient terraces, replanting the native grapes, and breathing new life into the region. Today, Asturias still doesn't have its own DO, that Denomination de Origine. Instead, most wines are labeled under Vino de la Tierra de Cangas, a recognized PGI, or Protected Geographical Indication. Think of it as a quality badge that says, yeah, this wine genuinely comes from here. And enjoy. So let's meet the grape cast behind Asturias' great wine comeback. Red wines make up roughly 80% of the population, led by some fascinating local and honestly nearly forgotten varieties. And those are the ones that I love. I love being able to taste grape varieties that are not everywhere, that were on the brink of extinction, and then bam, somebody loved them, cared for them, and brought them back. So, first up, we've talked about previously, Mencia. If you know Bierzo or Riviera Sacra, you'll recognize this one. In Asturias, Mencia produces bright, medium-bodied reds with notes of red cherry, raspberry, and soft herbal notes. Think somewhere between Pinot Noir and Gamay, but with an unmistakably Atlantic twist. It is lighter in alcohol, has a zingy freshness, and has that subtle salty edge because of its location. Then there's Albarine Tinto, often confused with Albarino, but it is actually not at all related. Albarine Tinto is an ancient local grape prized for its small berries and thick skins. When those thick skins come on a grape, you know what it means. Darker fruit, think blackberry, blackcurrant, along with a hint of spice and sometimes a savory herbal layer. I haven't yet had the pleasure of tasting it myself, but winemakers describe it as adding depth and character to the blends. And anybody out there, I'm raising my hand. I'm willing to give it a try. Carasquin is another local hero. It's lighter bodied, bursting with acidity, red fruit, and often described as crunchy. The kind of wine you chill slightly in summer and sip with cured meats or grilled fish. All right, I'll give it a try. And finally, there's Verdejo Negro, a real rarity, completely unrelated to the white Verdejo from Rueda. It's rustic, earthy, with gentle tannins, and often used to add complexity rather than being a standalone varietal. On the white side, making up about 20% of the production, Asturias' signature grape is Albarine Blanco. Almost lost to history, it's now back in full force, producing aromatic, zesty wines with notes of lemon peel, green herbs, and white flowers, perfectly suited to local seafood and the region's tangy blue cheeses. Albarine Blanco is usually fermented in stainless steel, keeping it fresh and pure, but some producers are starting to experiment with a little lees aging to add some texture to it. And of course, you'll also find a little bit of Godello, which is more famous in Galicia, but here Godello can bring a rounder mouthfeel, a bit of weight, and sometimes subtle oak notes, making it a greater partner for richer dishes. These wines aren't all about power and prestige. They're about the place. They're fresh, modest in alcohol, often lightly structured, and built to shine alongside local food rather than overshadow it, and are meant to be consumed young. Speaking of food, Asturian cuisine is pure comfort food. The queen of the table is fabada asturiana, a deeply flavorful stew of creamy white beans, chorizo, morcillo, blood sausage, and pork belly. Rich, smoky, and stick to your ribs good. As for me, you guys can all try that one. I'll take your word for it. It is typically paired with that bright high acid red like Albarine Tinto or Mencia to refresh the palate after each hearty spoonful. Then there's Cabrales, the legendary blue cheese aged in the mountain caves. It's strong, salty, and apparently unapologetic. Delicious with a splash of sweet cider or even a floral Albarine Blanco. Along the coast, seafood is obviously king. So we have fresh fish, shellfish, simply grilled or baked with olive oil and salt. A crisp Albarine Blanco or Godello is perfect. And if you're in the mood to indulge, cachopo, which is two thin veal fillets layered with ham and cheese, breaded and fried until golden and melty. That is comfort food at its finest. Asturias vineyards are small and scattered. They mostly hug the valleys of the Narcea, Luena, and Ibias rivers, with altitudes topping at about 500 meters, which is about 1,600 feet. The soils are a mix of slate and quartzite. They add minerality and tension to the wines. The slopes are so steep that every vine is farmed by hand. Pruning, harvesting, everything is done manually. Yields are extremely tiny, but what's produced is concentrated and once again tied to its place. Winemaking here is about letting the grape and land speak. The goal isn't to create big showy wines, but balanced, food-friendly wines that reflect the cool mountain meets the sea climate. The philosophy leans towards freshness over oak. Reds might see short macerations and sometimes rest in older barrels, just enough to soften the edges without masking the fruit. Whites stay in stainless steel or sometimes little lees contact to add some roundness. The goal is simple. Let the grape and the place speak. Even without a DO, Vino de la Tierra de Canjas wines tell a compelling story. It's all about the ancient grapes rescued from obscurity, heroic farming on dramatic slopes, and the style that tastes of mountain, herbs, rain-soaked slate, and those cool Atlantic breezes. Now, I wouldn't leave you without a few fun facts to sprinkle into your next wine chat. First, vineyards here date back to at least 9th century, planted by Benedictine monks. So wine isn't a modern experimentation here. It's been around for a long time. Second, before phylloxera, Asturias actually had over 4,000 hectares of vines. Today, fewer than 50 remain, making every bottle precious. So if you find one, grab one. And third, these are among Spain's highest altitude Atlantic vineyards, blending mountain freshness with ocean influence, something uniquely Asturian. No talk of Asturias would be complete without dipping a toe or maybe a full boot into its magical misty folklore. This is a land where La Sena, those enchanting water nymphs, supposedly lounge by the fountains and rivers, brushing their long hair and guarding hidden treasures. And if local legend is to be believed, sometimes swooning over passing mortals with hearts as soft as cabreles. Then there's the culebre, a dragon or giant serpent coiled in ancient caves, snoozing atop piles of gold. Some say that if you catch the morning fog rolling through the vineyards, it's really the culebre stretching its scales. And let's not forget the mischievous trasgos, tiny goblins with an eye for practical jokes. They love to rearrange your tools, hide your keys, or even braid your horse's mane just to watch you scratch your head. In Asturias, wine isn't merely the result of soil and rain. It's a living storybook, each vineyard plot whispering old legends passed down by grandparents to grandchildren on those cool, drizzly nights. Proof that in every glass, there's a splash of magic. So why should you care about Asturias? Because wine isn't just about famous labels. It's about exploration. It's about small producers reviving nearly lost grapes. It's about the passion, the farming by hand on misty terraces and making wines that speak softly but honestly, and where they come from. Wines that don't scream for attention, but should be rewarded. Thank you for exploring Asturias with me today. In our next episode, we'll keep moving east into Cantabria, another region where cider reigns, but wine whispers intriguing stories of its own. Until then, keep your glass curious, your pores generous, and remember, exploring wine is about discovery, not perfection. And if you spot an Albarine Blanco or a red blend from Canjas del Narcea, give it a try. You'll be tasting a region quietly, proudly, and rediscovering its voice. And put it on social media, tag me so I can see you enjoying it. Until next time, Slainte.
Water got turned right into wine, so you and I can fill the vine.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Exploring the Wine Glass is brought to you by Dracaena Wines. Dracaena Wines is an artisan winery located in Paso Robles, California. They have been producing wine since 2013. Their first vintage began with one wine, their classic Cabernet Franc, which received a 91 in Wine Enthusiast. Since then, they have increased production as well as expanded their portfolio, have received many accolades including multiple double gold medals and consistent 90-plus ratings. Visit their website www.dracaenawines.com or use the link in the show notes to schedule a private tasting and to see their entire portfolio. Purchase your award-winning wine and let Dracaena Wines help turn your moments into great memories.
There was no brandy, there was no martini, Irish coffee, banana, daiquiri, sweet Merlot.
This has been another episode of Exploring the Wine Glass. Thanks for listening. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like me to discuss, please reach out on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Exploring the Wine Glass. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt Budd. Of course, you can always email me at exploringthewineglass@gmail.com and sign up for my newsletter at exploringthewineglass.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find me more easily. And most importantly, tell your wine-loving friends, because if you like the podcast, they will too. Podcast music is Wine by Kevins. Until next week, Slainte.
Never let you go. No, never let you go. I want a nice glass right now.